coverage of the quarterfinals here at Grand Prix Indianapolis. Maria Bartholdi in the booth, joined by Marshall Sutcliffe, Kyle Boggemes, their second seed on the left side of your screen, versus Kristopher McCord there on the right. We're starting things off with a Mummy Paramount for Kyle. We saw him draft earlier, just a green-white beatdown deck, right, Marshall?
It is one of the most straightforward beatdown decks I've seen in this format. This is not a strategy that people love, but it is still effective, and green-white is one of the best two-color combos to accomplish this with. Effectively, Kyle is playing a deck that will have combat tricks, removal spells, and creatures, and that's it. That is what he's trying to do here. He very vehemently stuck to his guns as far as curve considerations went as he worked his way through the draft, even bypassing more powerful options for cheaper creatures. And we're going to see if it's going to pay off here. He took a bit of a gamble doing this, and I'm really curious to see how it works.
Well, we have a trade-off early here. Ruin Rat for the Mummy Paramount. Unwavering Initiate is going to be the play for Kyle. Merciless Eternal here for Chris. And Chris just passed the turn back. Here we go. Kyle Boggemes.
I did predict that he wouldn't run the Uncaged the Menagerie in this list, and I was right. He didn't run it.
Okay.
But we do see sort of the highlight of his deck are 3 copies of Ambuscade.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's such a powerful card in this particular two-color combo because you can use it to push through so much damage with these creatures. And you know, if Kyle can start leveraging those Ambuscades here.
Well, he's got a Harrier Naga in play, and that is a perfect card to ambuscade. Most of the time will kill almost everything.
Yeah, and, you know, he has 2 different 3-powered creatures here, so either one.
Absolutely.
Really good for that.
Merciless Eternal getting in with the attack here for Chris. Playing a blue-black deck.
Yeah, Kyle's pretty incentivized just to take the 2 damage here.
And he is straight just 2 colors. Another Ruin Rat here for Chris McCord.
Yeah, this is a big deal. 2 Ruin Rats already for Chris McCord is a real problem for Kyle. He needs to use removal spells on those in the later part of the game. The good news for Kyle is that he's not this big deck that's running out these huge, 5 and 6 mana threats. He is much lower to the ground than that. So if he has to trade off a 2-drop like he's already done this game, it's not the end of the world. It's 2 mana creature for a 2 mana creature, and you move on with your life.
You mentioned, Marshall, how much better you think counterspells are right now, and there's 2 countervailing wins here in Chris's list. But here's the first Ambuscade that we're going to see here out of Kyle. Taking out that Ruin Rat, getting in for 3 with the Harrier Naga there. Or sorry, both attacked.
Yeah, of course, the Unwavering Initiate got in there, too, with Vigilance.
Just taking a look, Ominous Sphinx here for Chris McCord. So we didn't get a chance to see his draft. We've got a Cartouche of Ambition. A couple of Death Touchers, too, and those 2 Ruin Rats and a Wasteland Scorpion. 3 copies of Aven Reedstalker.
3 Aven Reedstalker, and then you said he has a total of 3 Death Touch creatures then?
Yep.
The 2 Rats and the Scorpion?
Yes.
Those are very solid against Kyle. I mean, again, it's not that Kyle can't answer them. He can. But, compare that to what we see here with like a Kenra Eternal. This is a card that doesn't tussle particularly well with Kyle's deck, where a Ruin Rat is just a pain.
All right, we've got an Unquenchable Thirst here, locking down the Harrier Naga from Kyle. See what he has on 4. Well, we'll untap that Naga with a Sparring Mummy. Yeah,
that is a problem. It looks like Kyle's not going to get to do that repeatedly, but still.
I mean.
Yeah, it doesn't take that many attacks when your opponent's all the way down to 10.
Unwavering Initiate is just going to get in here and trade with that Kenra Eternal. Can come back with 1 more mana from Kyle.
Yeah, Kyle had the option to attack for 3 damage with the Harrier Naga there, to potentially drop Chris down to 7.
But it is pretty annoying just to leave it back.
Yeah, he would effectively be using it up. It would be like attack with this, get in for damage, and then it's gone.
Right.
And if he leaves it back on blocks, it can sit there and threaten to block that Merciless Eternal indefinitely, And Kyle decided that that's a higher value upside, especially given that Chris has already used a card. In fact, probably one of his better cards to try to neutralize it.
All right, so Ominous Sphinx is the play here for Chris McCord. This is one of the bigger, splashier cards in his deck.
Yeah, it's ambuscade o'clock here for Kyle Boggemes. He needs to shoot that thing down if he can, because if he can't, it's going to thwart his entire offensive.
And you said he has 3 in his list?
That's right. He's got 3 copies of ambuscade.
I think he has another one in hand.
Yeah, there's one already exiled here that he used to kill the Ruin Rat, but there's another one.
There's another one, and let me tell you what. Unquenchable Thirst does not stop an ambuscade.
No, and now Kyle's attacking for 7 damage here and really putting Chris to the test because he's tapped out, and if he's going to block, it's going to be a chump block, and that is not where he wants to be.
Yeah, Chris is going to drop down to 3 life.
Oof.
This could be a quick first game here.
This is a huge turn for Chris, though. If he can restabilize this...
Oh, spoke, and it was over.
Yeah.
Kyle passes the turn back to Kyle. There is a countervailing winds, I do know, in Kristopher's hand, but...
That will help.
A Catcher's Avenger?
Now, I
Binding Mummy?
guess he has to counter something here. No, he's just going to use up his
Reedstalker.
mana on the Reedstalker. Okay. Well, you can see what Kyle's doing here. He's sitting up for a potentially lethal attack. Now, it's not going to work out as it sits because of that even Reedstalker. But he's close. Combat Trick could get the job done. Another removal spell. I guess it's a little bit much to ask to not only draft 3 Ambuscade, but also draw all 3 in a game. But
Yeah, Chris McCord wondering what he can do here to sort of stabilize the board and crawl back from this 3 life that he has. Does have access, at least in his deck list, to a very good card and Never to Return. But he's facing down multiple threats from Kyle. Heckma Sentinels is a play. He passes the turn.
well, Heckma Sentinel's, not a great card, but it's good enough here to hold back Kyle Boggemes, who really does need a way to push through damage. He had a chance to take a couple of overcome. He passed them for combat tricks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and, those are the type of cards that look great here to finish off the opponent. But perhaps he could find one of those combat tricks to help him push through.
Do you remember what he took overcome?
Yeah, he took... Which combat? It was the green one, I believe.
Gift of Strength plus 3
I think it was a
3?
gift of strength. I think it was a gift of strength, yeah.
Interesting. He would need 1 more green mana for overcome, but such a powerful card.
Yeah, he has a nice place to put his mana with the Unwavering Initiate Embalm.
And that is going to have the Binding Mummy tap something down. Heckma Sentinels getting tapped there. Oketra's Avenger, at the very least, going to enter combat along with the Sparring Mummy. And the Avenger will be exerted here as well.
Yeah, Kyle taking advantage of the Binding Mummy synergy with Embalm, even though he's not running a particularly large amount of zombies in his deck. I think you see maybe both of them here.
Double chump there from Kristopher McCord.
Yeah,
Cycle.
The Sentinel's on taps, but this is going to be about game here. It's hard to imagine Kristopher getting out of this without some type of rare sweeper. Abantu's Last Reckoning, I think, is one of his only chances to not die from this position with only a few cards in hand.
Only 3 cards left for Chris McCord. Trying to think if there's any way he can fight his way back into this. Cursed Minotaur is the play, passes the turn back to Kyle.
So Chris is hanging on by an absolute thread, but
Yeah.
that is going to be it. The Mummy Paramount. Oh, I forgot about those. Yeah, he's got 2 or 3 of those. I totally forgot about those Paramounts. That's going to really make that Binding Mummy fantastic for Kyle, who has a pretty significant amount. And
Yep.
as you can see, that's going to earn him the first game.
That'll do it. Kyle Boggemes takes game 1 over Kristopher McCord here in the quarterfinals, Grand Prix Indianapolis.
Again, what we're looking at here from Kyle's perspective and what we should be paying attention to, because it's kind of interesting talking point, is I mentioned it when he was doing the draft deck, but we on the podcast on Limited Resources, we talk about a type of a deck called cabs. And a cabs deck is made up of cards that affect the board state only. And that's what Kyle's built. That is not generally the optimal way to build a draft deck. It is a good way to do it when you're learning and when you are a little too loose about which type of cards that you like to play. But the optimal builds do include some cards that don't affect the board, like card draw or an enchantment or an artifact that can help you, generate an advantage. Think of like maybe, I don't know, there's a bunch of different things, like a Sunset Pyramid or something like that. But Kyle, if you look at his list, is just straight down the line cards that make creatures, augment creatures, or kill creatures. And I'm curious to see if he's got enough power in that deck to get the job done. Also, I'm trying to talk more about Kyle's deck because I don't want to figure out what's going on in this poor state. This
Taking
is
a peek
absurd.
here at Andrew Cuneo and Michael Peretz, 22-6.
Yeah, the problem is that the board is so clogged up. There's creatures. I can't even see the creatures underneath the other creatures.
One of the reasons for that is Oketra's monument that you see there on the left side of your screen from Andrew Cuneo.
Oh, all of Michael's creatures just got a little smaller.
I love it. Overwhelming splendor here for Cuneo. Shrink all of your creatures down to 1/1s, please,
Thank
Michael.
you, Andrew. You just made this a lot easier for me.
Wow. And
What
Andrew already had a bunch of 1/1s.
What they're doing is they're trying to figure out. So if you look, there's a Drake down there, a 3/4 that has a -1/-1 counter on it.
Oh my gosh.
But also has illusory wrapping, so does it die? Is its base power and toughness now a 1/1? Or is it an O2 with the counter on?
Okay, so it does in fact die.
Layers, everybody.
Layers.
This is what judges are for. They come answer these questions, and it does die. And now it looks like Andrew has great attacks because he can just clear away a bunch of these pesky 1/1s.
Oh, I love it, Marshall. So besides making all of his creatures into 1/1s, base power and toughness 1/1, enchanted player can't activate abilities that aren't mana abilities or loyalty abilities.
Right. So Michael really has no way out of this at this point. A good example would be that Devotee of Strength, which is something that he may be able to use to, like, okay, fine, it's a 1/1, but I could pump up my
Right.
No, you can't do it.
Absolutely not. So Andrew
Wow.
Cuneo going to take down that first game against Michael Peretz in a
Best live looking ever.
very fashionable style there with overwhelming splendor. That was cool.
Yeah, it turns out you get your mana's worth for that particular 8-mana spell.
It was really interesting to see Oketra's monument in play in that game with overwhelming splendor at the same time.
So on the other side of the table, by the way, talking about the decks, I was talking about Kyle's deck being one of these cabs decks, these cards that affect the board state style decks. But the other side is kind of the opposite.
Right.
This is a more of a cycling control type deck that you see from Chris here. He's got Aerial Guide, Reed Stalker, but he's got 2 countervailing winds. That doesn't fit the description that we were talking about before.
Right.
He does have Unsummon Unquenchable Thirst to help deal with his opponent's creatures, which is pretty important. The 2 Ruin Rats that you mentioned before, of course, are in there. He's got 3 Cycling Desert, so that's pretty good. A Shadowstorm Vizier, a Never to Return. He's got a Curse Minotaur, a Cartouche of Ambition, a Floodwaters.
Yep, that is interesting.
He's going to be cycling that one, I bet. And he has cards like Hieroglyphic Illumination, which, again, are cards that, draw you cards but don't really affect the board directly. And so this is sort of 2 different strategies clashing together.
And as we mentioned, he does have that Ominous Sphinx, which works well with the cycling strategy.
Yeah, that card's good on its own and way better with the cycling stuff going on.
It would be really neat to be able to see that card online, getting up to some shenanigans. All right, we're going to check out Game 2 here. It is underway between Kristopher McCord and Kyle Boggemes. Speaking of cycling, let's get some cycling out of the way right away. 2 islands in play for Chris.
Chris potentially wanting to hit land drops or hit his second color. Is just going to cycle the Striped Riverwinder.
Mummy Paramount there for Kyle. Another cycle off of Floodwaters for Kristopher. Another island.
Good news is that Chris is on the play here, so he can kind of afford to spend his first 2 turns cycling to try to find lands. Now, his first 3 turns,
Ugh.
Well, he did find a black mana source with Ifnir Deadlands, but that is pretty slow. On the draw, he could be in big trouble, but on the play, he can get away with it.
And he does have an Unquenchable Thirst in hand, so finding a desert is relevant.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's really relevant.
In comes Mummy Paramount for 2, followed up by an Unwavering Initiate for Kyle.
And that's actually perfect for Chris. The Unquenchable Thirst on an Embalm or Eternalized creature is a very nice place for it. It just makes life difficult. Now, the downside is, if he goes Unquenchable Thirst and Kyle untaps and goes land Sparring Mummy, it's a disaster.
Oof.
Because the Unwavering Initiate, it has Vigilance. It will not be tapped on its own.
Oh, speaking of interesting
Wow.
cards,
So this is a classic, Maria.
Yep.
We've caught Torment of Scarabs, and that is the ultimate not Cabs card.
Yep.
And Kyle Boggemes is playing a completely opposite theme, and he is going to be looking to hammer Chris for going cycle, 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 torment. And Chris right now, just as the board sits, is going to take minimum 5.
Yeah, this is not looking great for him.
No, this is a good Cabs deck going against kind of a little bit of a disheveled cycling deck, and the Cabs deck is going to chew it up and eat it for lunch.
Exactly, and it's exactly what Kyle wants to see, too.
Perfect.
Like, please play that.
Yes. In fact, if you have another one, let's do that too.
I will just keep playing creatures and hitting you in the face with them.
So, Maria, I think what's happening here is there may be a discussion on whether the trigger was announced
Ah, yes.
and whether perhaps Chris missed it. I didn't see Kyle take 3. He
Nope.
didn't discard a card or sacrifice anything, and there was a discussion. So I think the only thing that you and I can assume here, Maria, is that the trigger was missed and didn't happen.
Yeah. We'll see how relevant it is. Vizier of the True here for Kyle.
We were kind of talking about how that card wasn't doing anything this game anyway. I mean, we didn't mean it literally, but
No. And Kristopher has got to do something here. There's that Unquenchable Thirst, tapping down that Vizier. And I think we've got a Kenra Eternal as a follow-up play. And
again, though,
here's
if there's a
trigger.
Sparring Mummy here, this is absolutely terrible for Chris.
looks like Kyle took 3.
Kyle would be getting in for 9 damage without the possibility for blocks here if he has the Sparring Mummy.
And he does have it, Marshall. There it is.
Oh,
Sparring
that
Mummy.
is insane.
Untap. Trigger a Mummy Paramount.
That's right.
And in they come.
Yeah, and now Chris is going to be at 4.
I'll
4
exert.
life!
Can't block. Wow. Kyle Boggemes has really just attacked face in both of these games, and Kristopher McCord has been on the back foot the entire time.
Yeah, and he put himself there, right? It's like, think about it like this. It's not that he hasn't used his mana,
No.
right? But he spent 5 mana cycling and 4 mana on an enchantment that really needs to go deep into the long game to be good. The only board-affecting plays he's made so far, Kenra Eternal and Unquenchable
Torment.
Thirst.
Yeah, he does have a Cartouche of Ambition in his hand, which is a way to gain some life and swing games back in your favor, but it does cost 3 and he only has 4 mana. Now the Vizier of the True has been exerted, so that won't be untapping. It's also got Unquenchable Thirst on it.
Yeah, it's super not untapping. It's both thirsty and exerted. It's like it just played basketball for 3 hours.
Marshall understands that.
I do.
Never to return also in Kristopher's hand, I'm taking note of as he passes the turn back.
I'm curious what Kyle does with the Torment trigger here. Likely just takes 3, but if he doesn't have any other way to untap the Vizier, then he could just sacrifice it because it's just not doing anything.
Right.
But I think he does have ways to untap it. I think a couple of his combat tricks like Act of Heroism or something like that could do the trick.
All right, so Kyle does have one of his 3 ambuscades pulled to the front of his hand.
What does Chris even have here?
I think he has never.
Well, that's not going to work. That's a sorcery.
Oh, no, it's a Reed Stalker.
Okay. Oh, this is Ambuscade.
Oh, sure enough. There we go. Kyle Boggemes taking that game down versus Kristopher McCord, 2-0. Kyle Boggemes advancing to the semifinals here at Grand Prix Indianapolis with a green-white good stuff deck.
Wow, he got in his cab and rode. That was a savaging by Kyle Boggemes. I have not seen that level of beatdown in a while. Woof.
I love those kind of decks, Marshall.
So does Kyle. Goodness sakes.
I was also a very big fan of Steve Rubin's deck. Been fans of his decks all day, to be honest.
Yeah,
But
he's been drafting some nice ones.
very similar kind of beat-down red-white deck. Let's peek in here, Andrew Cuneo versus Michael Peretz.
Looks like he's 1 mana away from Overwhelming Splendor if
All
he has it.
right. Let's find out. Another pretty big board state here. Bunch of creatures in play for both players. A Devotee of Strength here for Michael. Can help crack board states open when your opponent has a lot of blockers back. Anointer Priests there for Andrew Cuneo. Ketra's Avenger. Solitary Camel. We're going to exert a Bitterblade Warrior here for Michael Peretz. Cuneo, I think, just going to take the 3. Show us your hand, Andrew. We need to know.
Show us a land and then windmill that thing.
Well, he definitely has a land, Marshall.
Because Michael's really been able to build out some impressive board states as we've come in. I mean, look at this.
Yeah, he's got a Rampaging Hippo that is holding back absolutely everything from Andrew Cuneo.
Yeah, plus look at all those 2/2s. Pair of Zombies plus a Gravedigger. Devotee of Strength. And what is that, a Ritualist or?
Initiate's Companion.
Initiate's Companion, right. Bit of a standoff here, though. Oh!
And here it is!
Every time we come to this match, he just windmill slams that card.
Thank you for waiting for us, Andrew Cuneo. Overwhelming Splendor, and now Cuneo's creatures can just attack in with impunity. Wow. Exerting the Avenger, sure. Oh, God. It just wrecks Michael's deck, which is full of, great green big cards. Just
kidding. It really
kidding.
does.
All 1/1s. Oops,
Right.
all 1/1s.
Oops, all 1/1s indeed. And 2 lands in hand for Michael. How is he able to survive? I mean, he does have a lot of creatures. He could stack up
Sure.
a bunch of blocks.
He just has to pass the turn back to Cuneo. The power of Overwhelming Splendor on full display here.
He's just going to have to pile up a bunch of these. Yeah, triple block one of those.
Oh, it feels
Double
so
block
bad.
the camel. Feels real bad, man.
Those Anointed Priests come back.
Oh, my God.
Just brutal.
How annoying. But he's only taking, what? A few damage here, 4 damage.
Yeah, that Avenger was exerted last turn, so it is
Right.
not attacking.
Right. Still, Michael's getting perilously low, and with no answer for Overwhelming Splendor in sight, this one could slip away from him very easily. This is a big draw step for him.
All right, we're going to see an Embalm here from Andrew Cuneo on that Anointer Priest. Gain a life.
Running up the score.
All right, pass back. Here we see, can Michael draw anything? Oh, it's a forest.
We may have cursed Michael as much as the Overwhelming Splendor, because every time we come in, he just bricks on his draw steps, and Andrew slams an 8-drop.
Sorry, Michael. Passes the turn back to Cuneo, who appears to just have a couple of lands and a farm to market in hand. Swinging for the fences here.
Yeah.
Exerting that Avenger once again.
He can even just use farm just to get market into the graveyard. I mean, what is he going to do? Find a better target for farm? They're all 1/1s.
They're all 1/1s.
No abilities, basically. So he can use farm and then actually cast market because, with 2 lands in hand, that's a big play. Now, he might just win this turn. But I think he's only going to get in for 2. if I'm correct.
All right, Michael is left with a single solitary 1/1.
But it is a hippo.
It is something. Cycle. Find another land and show him off. And there you go. Andrew Cuneo defeating Michael Peretz here in the quarterfinals, 2-0. He will advance to the semis. Well, that was really cool, Marshall.
Yeah, that was two much different decks than what we saw in our other match, kind of getting to do the thing that they did. Michael actually set himself up nicely. He had a fully set up board where he had clearly resolved an Hour of Promise for the zombies. He had something die, got it back with Gravedigger, played the thing, had the Gravedigger still, and he even had a big threat with the hippo going too.
All right, well, we are going to take a little break here before we get to see our text match, which was on one of our back tables. So let's take a look at these decks that...
breaks are for the weak, Maria.
Well, I mean break in air quotes, not a real break. A magic break.
You mean like a break from Magic? Where I go get a bunch of food? That's not the kind of break you meant, is it?
No, sorry, Marshall. You're going to have to wait in those meat and potatoes for a little while.
Yeah, I don't... So there's only 2 other matches going. There's Eli Cassis versus Andrew Funkhouser.
Yep.
And there's also... That's the one.
Yep.
We already watched enough of this. No, we didn't. There's Steve Rubin and Richard
Ritchie.
We are going to actually bring one of those matches over. But the deal is...
Right. We've got to wait for them to finish their first game before we can shift them.
Because they're not under the camera.
Right. So they are over on a different table that does not have a camera over it currently, and so we're going to shift them over, and then we'll be able to see their game 2 once they enter that match. And we're going to take a look at Andrew Cuneo's Twitter account.
Yeah, we don't like to bring the players over when they're in the middle of a game.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because it can be so difficult to reconstruct the board, and it's also just
yeah, it messes with your mind, I would
right,
imagine.
it kind of can throw you off.
All right, so here we go. We've got the players setting up underneath our camera. Andrew Funkhouser there in 6th, Eli Kassis in 8th, quarterfinals. Let's take a look at their deck lists that we have here in front of us. Andrew Funkhouser.
Who's, by the way, up a game.
Up a game. Okay,
he's the one that
currently
won
up a
that
game
game
over
one.
Eli Kassis. Playing 5-4, 7 Island, 1 Swamp, 2 Desert of the Indomitable. And guess what card he has, Marshall? One of your favorites.
And it's not Desert of the Indomitable?
A little birdie.
Hoopu?
Hoopu.
He's the one that got the Hoopu
He got the
that
Hoopu.
Kyle passed?
Yep.
So jealous.
So, yeah, we've got Funkhouser with the Hoopu. Unsummon Countervailing Winds, a 1-of in his deck. Ambuscade, 1-of as well. So there are more than 3 in this draft, turns out. Rampaging Hippo, 2 Sunset Pyramids, Marshall. That's kind of cool.
Dude, I am loving this deck already. I am in.
Marshall's
Team
in.
Funkhouser.
Pull from tomorrow. How does that sound?
Oh, I love this deck.
Do you want to splash for a Cartouche of Ambition? Because he is.
Sure, I would.
Okay, Honored Hydra. Does that sit well with you? Gift of Paradise?
Yes, it's well with me. Yes, it's well with me. Yes, I'm loving this.
Okay, Marshall's
this is what
in.
I want.
Team Funk for Marshall here.
All right, now let's look at what Eli Cassis is playing here. He's on black-green.
Okay.
With, well, 3 Obelisk Spider.
Oh, okay.
3 Obelisk Spiders.
Wow.
A Driven to Despair.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's the draw, make him discard a bunch Aftermath card. He's got a Dream Stealer.
Nice.
Hope you didn't want to have those cards in your hand.
No, of course not.
He actually ended up with the Overcome and is playing it, which I like here because he's got Frilled Tenwalla, Hope Tender, Tenacious Hunter, kind of a bunch of big green creatures that can kind of power through Quarry Holler, that kind of thing. Cursed Minotaur, Festering Mummy, which he's playing, a Lord of the Accursed, a Soul Stinger. And he's got the premium uncommon Decimator Beetle. And interestingly, just to make our lives a little bit more difficult, Maria, he's got Destined to Lead as well. So he has both of the green-black Aftermath cards, Destined to Lead and Driven to Despair.
All right, we're going to have some trouble here.
So if he has one of them in hand, we'll have to try to figure out which one it is. But
well, Driven to Despair is green on top, Destined to Lead black on top. That's the only. That's what.
But
that's
my
all
brain doesn't process it like that. I'm telling you, if he has it, I'm just going to be like, it's one or the other.
All right, I'll be on it, Marshall. Don't you worry.
All right.
So what do you like in a match where you've got something like green-black, 3 obelisk spiders, kind of a grindy game like that, versus something like this, playing a Weaver of Currents, we're dealing with mana, we've got a Hoopoe.
This is an interesting position because either of these decks, specifically Eli Cassis' deck, would be so good against some of the decks that we've already seen.
Yes.
The Cabs decks, those low-to-the-ground straightforward decks. When they see an obelisk spider, it's kind of a like you have to use a removal spell on this right now or things just stop. The interesting part about this matchup is that that's completely not the case from Andrew Funkhouser's perspective.
Right.
If Eli goes, haha, obelisk spider, Andrew's like, and he'll play like, Gift of Paradise.
Yeah.
And then it'll be Eli's like, yeah, but you can't attack me. And he's like, yeah, okay. And then it'll be like Hoopoe, draw a card, and he'll be like, well, it won't be attacking anytime soon. And he's like, yeah, draw another card. Right. And he has those huge cards like the Sunset Pyramids, the Pull from Tomorrow's, and the Hoopoes to just generate massive card advantage, while Eli's deck, at least part of it, is designed to sit behind a wall of these spiders. The good news for Eli Cassis, though, is that he has not moved all in on that defensive strategy. And like I mentioned, he has cards like Overcome, Tenacious Hunter, cards that can actually get in for a bunch of damage. So Eli can take a more aggressive stance. It's just that some of his best cards aren't maximized in a matchup like this. And I am talking about those spiders.
I really am still having trouble with you just saying the phrase sitting behind a wall of spiders, Marshall. I gotta say.
Does that creep you out or something?
Oh, yeah. Big time.
You're not a spider person?
You think I'm a spider person? Who's a spider person?
Probably your 2 cats. They're probably spider people. Nice and crunchy.
Oh, no, I hate spiders. Aren't you scared of spiders?
I think I'm spider agnostic. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I mean, they're creepy.
I mean, spiders are great. They eat bugs. They're nice.
Yeah.
They usually help us out.
That's noble of you to recognize them, even though you clearly hate them and would squash one.
Yeah, but I recognize their value before I murder them in cold blood, Marshall.
Right. That is noble of you, I will say.
What are you, afraid of snakes? Come on, give me something here.
No snakes.
Alien abduction?
Would not enjoy that.
Okay, well.
But I had laser eye surgery, which felt a lot like being abducted by aliens.
Did it really?
Yeah, so I'm kind of over that. Oh, actually, you already know my weakness. You've already poked at that weakness this weekend, too.
Oh, yes, I do. Certain words in the English language.
So I don't talk about our furry little friends, and you don't talk about that, and we're cool?
Okay, all right. We'll see. I mean, I can't make any promises, but I'll try my best, Marshall.
I just feel like you have the power here, but anyway.
All right,
Mulligans.
Eli doesn't like his hand. We'll be going down to 6.
Oh, my God. I'm going to kill chat. Chip Funks, you monster.
Yes, chat, yes.
No, I am so mad.
I would burn my house down if I saw a spider. I love that.
Super Ultra Mega Combat. Love it. Yeah, this is a tough spot because as we've been joking around about our phobias, this is 5 for Eli Cassis.
Ugh.
And, he's already down a game here, Maria.
Yep. Does not feel good.
We're in firm not like this territory.
All right, he's like, give me some land and just something here. He keeps it and scries to the bottom.
Of course, to the bottom.
Do you see the way he put that forest out? It was the saddest forest play I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
Well, he has 2 lands at least. Andrew Funkhouser here, starting things off with a Desert of the Indomitable and an island. Wall of Forgotten Pharaohs. Good
start for him. He'll get a little bit of pressure going and just kind of start to present things that matter.
Excuse me, the Wall of 04.
Only Cuneo has to say that. You are allowed to say it by its actual name if you'd like. Yeah, it's up to you.
Wretched Camo play there from from Ely.
Uh-oh.
Weaver of Currents here, though, from Andrew.
This is explosive.
Let's ramp.
And this is where defensive cards from Ely Cassis could really be a liability. I saw he has a Soul Stinger in his hand, for example.
Yes.
Now, he is
Shed
going to get
Weakness.
some value here, though, from Shed Weakness, so that's nice.
Hope Tender is the follow-up play.
It does look like Ely's playing in slow motion.
It kind of does. I just assumed it was because he was feeling bad for going down to 5, but maybe this is...
No, he just plays like that.
that's
I've
how he
covered his
plays.
matches.
Oh, okay.
He's a, methodical tapper.
Something that I could definitely learn from.
Oh, yeah.
I play pretty
Oh,
fast.
you certainly do. Maria's thought process in Magic starts with, how many of these creatures can I attack with? And she just gets consistently more disappointed as she isn't able to do so.
Wow, that's actually true.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to play Gift of
God.
Paradise here.
Tons of mana available for Andrew. Now we could see the true power of card draw spells if he has any of those. And there's one
Ooh,
now.
Sunset Pyramid.
I know it's a little early, but that's like almost game. Like
It is. I mean,
when you have the access to that much mana and then you have a Sunset Pyramid to really fuel your draw steps, it's only a matter of time before he starts overpowering Ely.
well, Ely does happen to have this Hope Tender, which, as we say, does give him some hope to be able to cast some of his bigger spells. Overcome in hand. Not looking the greatest right now.
Right. Overcome plus 3 creatures is a plan. He's getting in for 2, but the problem is Andrew's at 21.
Yeah.
And Overcome needs more. It just needs more resources to be good. And the mulligan to 5 really crippled poor Ely here.
And Funkhouser has that Sunset Pyramid, as you mentioned, so not only access to a lot of mana, but access to card draw as well to keep the engine rolling. Yeah, I do believe Ely's hand is Overcome and one of his black-green split cards, Driven to Despair, I believe. Andrew Funkhouser doing a little math on the table there, seeing what he might be able to cast with all of this mana. Or we could just cast a Hoopu.
Ding, ding. He can activate that immediately. So even if Ely somehow comes up with a way to kill it off of his 3 mana, which is hard to do, Andrew can respond by drawing a card, which, is already a setback for Ely.
Land
And
was
if he
the draw.
can't, it's just going to get completely out of hand.
Oh, right. I mean, we talked about the power of the Hoopu earlier this weekend. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic magic card. Can get you out of...
Whoa. Don't block with it. What are you doing?
Oh, Marshall's getting really worried.
Andrew?
Andrew?
You've been entrusted with the power of the Hoopu. All right. He respected it.
Okay, respect the Hoopu.
Yeah. I mean, look, he can take the 2 because he can get 2 of it right back. And we're in a position now, Maria, where Andrew can draw 3 cards a turn for the next 3 turns.
What?
He can go Hoopu Pyramid draw step for the next 3 turns.
Seems good.
Who's interested?
And the Hoopu can attack, too.
Oh, yeah. He's a big boy. Send him in.
Lording over his River of Blood there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see what Funkhouser has here after attacking with that Hoopu. It's a giant spider.
Perfect. That leaves him the 5 mana needed to activate the Hoopu again and keep the life flowing. And, I think Andrew's really respecting the fact that the only way he loses this game is, honestly, buy a card like Overcome. Like, that's the kind of, oops, I gotcha type card. And if Andrew can just keep activating Hoopu, he can, of course, draw cards, but also keep his life totals sufficiently out of range for any... you start thinking about random. What
Right.
nonsense could Ely put
Right.
together here where I could actually die? And if he's at 20-something life, the answer is there just isn't any.
All right, Ely just has to pass the turn back. I believe his draw was a white card. We're going to see a Hoopu activation here from Funkhouser. Gain a couple of life, draw a card.
Oh, yeah, this is just a disaster for Ely Cassis. That mulligan he's never recovered from. And Andrew had the perfect combination of double ramp spell one of them making 2 additional mana, one of them making an additional, and then 2 different forms of card advantage that are repeatable. And that is the worst case scenario for Ely when he's stumbling and not able to apply pressure in a meaningful way.
Yeah, in comes the Hoopu for 1 point of damage.
Yeah, I wouldn't, Andrew actually is now to the point where he can double Hoopu. And there's a good argument to be said to just say go.
Just do that.
Yeah, just like, why do I need to cast anything ever? Like, now he gets to still use his mana efficiently by casting the Scribe of the Mindful, because he can still use the Sunset Pyramid to draw a card and the Hoopu this turn, so he's still going to get a draw 2. He just decided instead of an additional 2 life, he'd rather have a counter off of the Sunset Pyramid and a Scribe in the play.
And here we see Driven to Despair.
Yeah, so this is a big play here because he can actually Aftermath at this turn as well and kind of try to chip away at Andrew's hand.
Yeah, so Driven says, until end of turn, creatures you control gain trample, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Despair, until end of turn, creatures you control gain menace, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, that player discards a card.
Right, so Andrew's probably going to want to trade for the Hope Tender here. He could consider trading for the Camel while there's no downside to it as far as deserts go. But the Hope Tender opens up a lot more doors for Ely Cassis as far as casting, it's basically another mana sitting there. So casting 5 drops. So I like this block here from Andrew.
Andrew's just going to activate that Sunset Pyramid and draw a card here.
Yeah, he can still activate
a Hoopu as well.
The Hoop.
Hoopty. Unsummon.
Wow, this is a huge setback now for Ely. This started out bad and has really just gotten worse. Sure, Andrew had to discard a card in that transaction, but it was just a redundant forest. He had so much extra action.
Funkhouser continues just to gain life, draw cards. Ely with only a Wretched Camel in play, not even any kind of desert, so Funkhouser is just going to swing. Follow it up with an Honored Hydra.
Yeah, and again, he's left up 2 mana to use on the Sunset Pyramid, so for every single turn of the last 4, he's drawn minimum 2 cards per turn. How can you keep up with that? He's now ahead on every metric. He's ahead on life, board, and card draw potential, though he doesn't actually have more cards than Ely at the moment, but virtually speaking, he does.
Cursed Minotaur is the play for Ely. Sunset Pyramid once again draws Andrew Funkhouser a card, draws another for his draw step here.
Well, chat said we want the funk.
Well,
they're getting it.
Andrew Funkhouser is definitely bringing the funk right now.
He is going to win this. You're going to see him in the semifinals. It's probably a turn or 2 away for him. But it's just out of range for Ely to steal this with only 2 creatures, even with a powerful card like Overcome in hand.
I gotta say, Funkhouser's deck is pretty sweet, too.
Oh, I'm in love.
Marshall's putting a ring on it.
Definitely.
Destined to lead here from Ely. Target creature gets +1/+0 and indestructible until end of turn, just buying himself some time, I guess.
Yeah, this is just trading off of resources here, but all of these interactions favor Andrew because of the card draw engines that he's got online.
Ely drops to 5. Scrounger of Souls here from Funkhouser.
Yeah, he's
okay.
Dead-ish on board. I mean, the Honored Hydra has trample. It's an issue.
Frilled Sandwalla and Soul Stinger here.
Right, I guess he does get to live another turn.
Sunset Pyramid drawing its last card.
Yeah, I don't think he'll upkeep Sunset Pyramid here because he just wants access to all of his mana.
Ely at 5. I wasn't expecting to see a Scrounger of Souls in this kind of deck, but I did mention that he has a Cartouche of Ambition. In comes the team for Funkhouser. Ely with 2 cards left in hand, lining up his blocks, and I've got to say has fought valiantly despite mulliganing down to 5 this game.
Yeah, he's done every single thing he can to try to scrap back some amount of advantage here. Not another unsummon, Andrew.
How about another unsummon?
Yeah,
oh, in a way,
enough,
Winds
yeah.
of Rebuke.
Same difference.
And there's the handshake. Andrew Funkhouser will advance to the semifinals 2-0 over Ely Cassis with a pretty sweet blue-green Hoopu deck. All right, we'll be back with more messages. More messages? More magic after these messages.